At my daughter's wedding, she looked me in the eye and said, "I have a real mother now, leave." I walked out of that church in silence, but what Ava didn't know was that she had just awakened the wrong woman. My name is Beatrice. I am 71 years old, and I have just lived through the greatest humiliation of my life. For 35 years, I was the only mother Ava ever knew. Her father died when she was 20, and from that day on, I became her entire world. I worked 3 jobs to pay for her private university. I sold my late husband's engagement ring to cover her master's degree, and I took out a second mortgage on this house twice so that she would never want for anything. Yesterday morning, I woke up excited, ironing my pale pink dress for the wedding. It was the same one I wore to her graduation, the only elegant thing I owned. I fixed my hair in the bathroom mirror, practicing the smile I would give when they saw her walk down the aisle. I had saved for a year to give her the pearl earrings that had belonged to my mother. But 6 months ago, when Ava met Victoria Davenport, her fiancé Michael's mother, everything changed. Victoria is a high society woman, owner of properties downtown, always dressed as if she'd just stepped out of a magazine. From the first day, she looked at me as if I were the help. "What a shame Ava didn't have a more refined maternal figure," she once said to me as we had tea in her mansion. Victoria began to fill my daughter's head with ideas. "A young lady of your caliber needs to distance herself from certain elements of her past," she would whisper. "Your future is with us now." I watched as Ava began to be ashamed of our humble home, of my work-worn hands, of my accent that betrayed my humble origins. The visits became less frequent, the calls shorter. "I'm very busy, Mom," she would say. Victoria is teaching me high society etiquette. Every word was a dagger in my heart, but I kept smiling because I thought that after the wedding, things would go back to normal. How wrong I was. The ceremony was in the most elegant, historic stone church in the city. I arrived early, with my small bouquet of cheap flowers, looking for my place in the front row. But a man in a suit stopped me. "Excuse me, ma'am, but this section is reserved for the immediate family," he said, pointing toward the back. "Your seat is in row 15. I froze, 15 rows back, as if I were just any other guest. As if I hadn't been the one who rocked her to sleep every night when she had nightmares, who taught her to walk, who worked until my hands bled so she could get an education. Ava entered, radiant in a white dress that cost more than my 6-month salary. Victoria walked by her side, looking like the true mother of the bride. My daughter saw me sitting in the back and didn't even smile. Her eyes slid over me as if I were a piece of old furniture. After the ceremony, during the reception, I approached to congratulate her. I had the pearl earrings in my trembling hands. "Ava, my love, I wanted to give you these. They were your grandmother's." She looked at me with a coldness I had never seen before. Victoria stood right behind her, wearing that venomous smile. "Mom," Ava said, but she pronounced the word as if it disgusted her. "I want you to know something." The hall was still filled with music and laughter, but for me, the world had stopped. "Victoria has officially adopted me," she continued. "She is going to be my mother from now on, a real mother who can give me the status I deserve." My legs felt weak. "Ava, I don't understand." "You understand perfectly," she cut me off. "I don't need you anymore. Victoria has taught me that I can't let my past ruin my future." She leaned close to my ear and whispered the words that shattered me. "I have a real mother now, leave." Tears began to roll down my cheeks, but I didn't say a word. All the guests were watching us. Victoria was smiling triumphantly. Michael looked away, ashamed, but too cowardly to defend me. I left the earrings on the table and walked towards the exit. No one stopped me. No one followed me. 35 years of unconditional love vanished in that moment. That night, I cried until I had no tears left. I sat in my small kitchen, surrounded by all the memories of Ava, her elementary school drawings taped to the refrigerator, the letters she wrote me as a teenager, the photos of our birthdays celebrated with homemade cakes because we couldn't afford a restaurant. It all seemed like a lie now. The next day, I waited for her call. An apology, an explanation, something. But my phone remained silent. I dialed her number 3 times, but it went straight to voicemail. I wrote texts that she never answered. "Ava, please, let's talk." I'm your mother. My love, I don't understand what happened. I love you, no matter what you said. Nothing. Absolute silence. A week later, an envelope arrived at my door. It was from a high-powered law firm. Inside was a letter that froze my blood. Dear Mrs. Beatrice Miller, this letter is to inform you that Miss Ava Victoria Davenport has decided to legally change her surname and sever all familial ties with you. Davenport. She had taken Victoria's last name, erasing any trace of me from her identity. The letter continued. Furthermore, you are hereby informed that all benefits, life insurance policies, and inheritances that might have corresponded to you have been transferred to Mrs. Victoria Davenport, who now acts as her legal mother. My name had been removed from everything. From the $2 million life insurance policy I had been paying for years. From the emergency fund I had built penny by penny. From the joint savings account where I kept money for our future vacations. I couldn't breathe. Not only had I lost my daughter, I had also lost the $30,000 I had saved in that account. Everything it had taken me years to accumulate was now in Victoria's hands. The days turned into a silent hell. Without the income from the insurance policy that Ava helped me pay, and without the savings from the joint account, I couldn't cover the mortgage. The bank notified me that I had 30 days to get current or I would lose the property. The same house where I raised my daughter alone, where every wall held our memories, where I thought I would grow old in peace. I had to pack my few belongings and move into a cheap motel on the outskirts of town. The Sunset Motor Inn had water stains on the walls, a bed that creaked with every movement, and the constant noise of traffic that wouldn't let me sleep. I paid $150 a week, money that came from my small widow's pension. In the mornings, I would walk to the corner diner, where a cup of coffee cost $3. I would sit at the same table by the window, watching happy families pass by, mothers with their adult daughters arm in arm, shopping together, laughing together, the life I thought I would have forever. One afternoon, desperate to hear Ava's voice, I went to her new house. Victoria had given her a mansion in the most exclusive neighborhood as a wedding gift. I stood in front of the Golden Gate, looking at the lit windows, imagining my daughter having dinner with her new family. I rang the bell. A housekeeper answered. "I'm looking for Ava," I said in a trembling voice. "I'm her mother." The woman looked at me with pity. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I have orders not to allow you inside." Miss Ava was very clear. "You are no longer welcome here." My knees almost gave out. My own daughter had given orders to treat me like a dangerous stranger. I walked away from that gate feeling smaller than ever, walking alone through those elegant streets where I clearly didn't belong. Back in my motel room, I sat on the edge of the bed, looking at an old photo I had managed to save. Ava was 8 years old. She was hugging me after her school play. I had missed work to go see her perform as a princess. "You're the best mom in the world," she had told me that night. "I love you more than anything." Now those words sounded like cruel jokes of fate. The next few days were a routine of survival. I would wake up, eat a cheap granola bar for breakfast, and go out looking for a job at 71 years old, when no one wants to hire an older woman. I'd return to the motel at dusk, buy something to eat at the gas station mini-mart, and go to bed wondering how I had come to this. One night, as I tried to sleep in that uncomfortable bed, I heard laughter through the thin walls. A family was celebrating a birthday in the next room. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," a mother shouted to her adult daughter. "I love you so much." The sound of their happiness was like salt in my open wounds. I got up and went out onto the small motel balcony. The city glittered in the distance, full of lights and life, but I felt completely disconnected from it all. I had given everything for my daughter. I had sacrificed my youth, my comfort, my dreams, and now I was here, alone, without money, without a home, without a family. For the first time since the wedding, I felt something other than sadness. A spark of something darker began to grow in my chest. It wasn't just pain, it was a kind of awakening. Ava and Victoria thought they had destroyed me, that they had taken everything that mattered. But they were wrong, because there were things they didn't know about me. Things I had kept hidden for so many years that I had almost forgotten them myself. The next morning, I decided to do something I hadn't done in decades. I searched through the few things I had managed to save from my house. I had a small suitcase with important documents, photos, and some old papers I had never bothered to fully review. I sat on the floor of the motel room and spread everything out on the stained carpet. There was my marriage certificate, yellowed with time, my birth certificate, and Ava's, the deed to the house I had just lost. And at the bottom of it all, wrapped in a plastic bag that had become brittle with age, I found something that made me stop cold. It was a thick envelope with a lawyer's seal. I had put it away when my husband died 15 years ago, but in the midst of the pain of widowhood and the desperation of raising Ava alone, I had never fully opened it. I had only read the first page, which mentioned his life insurance and a few minor belongings. I thought there was nothing else of importance in there. With trembling hands, I opened the envelope and took out all the documents. There were pages and pages I had never seen. My husband had been a discreet man. He never talked about money or properties. I knew he worked in real estate, but I always thought he was just another employee, not someone important. As I read, my heart began to beat faster. Last will and testament of Robert Miller. The first page mentioned the life insurance I already knew about, but as I kept reading, things appeared that left me breathless. To my beloved wife, Beatrice Miller, I leave the entirety of my real estate holdings, including the commercial building located at 2847 Grand Avenue, with an appraised value of $800,000. My eyes widened. A commercial building? Robert had never told me he owned a building. I kept reading, my hands shaking. Vacant lot of 5,000 square meters in the Willow Creek Estates residential zone, with an appraised value of $1,200,000. Willow Creek Estates. That was the exact neighborhood where Victoria had her mansion, where Ava now lived. But it didn't end there. Luxury apartment in the Emerald Tower, 23rd floor, with a value of $900,000, fully paid off. There were more properties listed: commercial spaces, plots of land, even shares in companies I didn't recognize. The total value exceeded $4 million. I was paralyzed. For 15 years, I had lived in poverty, working as a cleaner, selling my belongings to give Ava what she needed, while I was unknowingly a millionaire. Robert had left everything in my name, but I had never claimed the inheritance because I didn't know it existed. There was a personal note from Robert at the end. My dearest Beatrice, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you. I worked my whole life buying properties under shell companies to protect our family. Everything is in your name now. I used the pseudonym Helena Vance in the legal documents to maintain privacy. The lawyer, Mr. Wallace, has all the details. I trust you will use this inheritance wisely. I love you forever. Helena Vance. Robert had created a completely separate legal identity to manage the properties. I was Helena Vance, a multimillionaire businesswoman, and I didn't know it. With trembling hands, I searched the envelope until I found an old business card. Mr. Wallace, attorney at law, real estate specialist. The phone number was still there, printed in faded gold letters. I dialed the number from the motel's payphone. I wasn't sure if the lawyer would still be working after so many years. It rang 3 times before a male voice answered. Wallace Law Firm. Good morning. Good morning, I said, my voice uncertain. I'm looking for Mr. Wallace. I am Helena Vance. There was a silence on the other end. Then the voice became more formal, almost reverent. Mrs. Vance, we have been awaiting your call for 15 years. Mr. Wallace is available for you immediately. When can you come to the office? 2 hours later, I was sitting across from an elegant man in his 60s in a luxurious office downtown. Mr. Wallace received me as if I were royalty. Mrs. Vance, he said, using the name Robert had chosen, your husband was a very intelligent man. He created a real estate empire using your alternate identity. Everything is perfectly legal, all taxes paid, all documents in order. He was just waiting for you to come and claim what is yours. He showed me binders full of contracts, deeds, and bank statements. Your properties have been generating rent all these years. We have a fund of $4,200,000 waiting for you, plus the properties, which are now worth considerably more than when your husband bought them. My head was spinning. $4,200,000? In cash? Yes, plus the properties. In total, your net worth exceeds $8 million, Mrs. Vance. $8 million. While I was living in a $150 a week motel, I had $8 million waiting for me. There's something else, Mr. Wallace continued, opening a red folder. One of your properties is particularly interesting. Are you familiar with the Willow Creek Estates neighborhood? My heart stopped. Yes, I am. You are the owner of the land where that entire residential section is built. The mansions are built on your land, Mrs. Vance, including the mansion of the Davenport family. Victoria, the woman who had taken my daughter, who had humiliated me, who thought she was superior to me, was living on my land. The lease agreements are about to expire, the lawyer continued. As the owner, you have the right to renew the contracts. Or not. A slow smile began to form on my lips. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope. But it wasn't exactly hope I was feeling. It was something more powerful. Mrs. Vance, the lawyer said, what do you wish to do with your properties? I looked out the window at the city stretching before us. Somewhere out there, Victoria was having tea on her terrace, believing she had won. Ava was playing at being the daughter of a rich woman, ashamed of her true origins. They both thought they had destroyed me. I want to take back everything, I said in a firm voice. Every cent, every property, every right that belongs to me. And I want to do it quietly. Quietly, ma'am? Yes, I replied, feeling for the first time in weeks that I was in control of my life. They will find out who I really am, but only when it's too late to do anything about it. Mr. Wallace smiled. It was clear he had been waiting for this moment as much as I had, without knowing it. It will be my pleasure to assist you, Mrs. Helena Vance. The next few days were the strangest of my life. In the morning, I was still Beatrice, the abandoned woman living in a cheap motel. But in the afternoons, I transformed into Helena Vance, a multimillionaire entrepreneur beginning to move pieces on a board no one else could see. Mr. Wallace set me up with a new bank account under my legal identity as Helena. When I saw the account statement for the first time, I had to sit down. $4,200,000 in real numbers, on my screen, immediately available. More money than I had seen in my entire life. The first thing I did was move, but not to a mansion. That would have been too obvious. I rented a discreet middle-class apartment, comfortable but not flashy. I needed to remain invisible while I studied my enemies. Mr. Wallace brought me a complete file on the Davenport family. Victoria was not as wealthy as she appeared. Her fortune was built on loans and appearances. The mansion where she lived had an $800,000 mortgage, and the land, my land, cost her $50,000 a year in rent. But there was something more interesting. She had significant debts with several banks, and her import company had been in the red for 2 years. Mrs. Davenport is living on credit, Mr. Wallace explained. Her expensive lifestyle doesn't match her actual income. She's maintaining a very costly facade. Perfect. A woman who lives on appearances has a lot to lose. Meanwhile, I began to watch them from the shadows. Every afternoon, I sat in different cafes near the boutique where Victoria took Ava shopping. I watched them enter with bags from expensive stores, laughing, acting like the perfect mother and daughter we never were. One afternoon, I followed her to the most exclusive beauty salon in the city. They were getting manicures together, talking about their upcoming vacation to Europe. Ava looked different. More put together, more sophisticated, but also emptier. She no longer had that genuine laugh I remembered from when she was young. Now she laughed like Victoria, with a calculated elegance that sounded fake. You know what, Mother? I heard Ava say to Victoria. Mother. The word cut through me like a knife. Sometimes I don't even remember what my life was like before. It's like I woke up from a nightmare. Victoria smiled with satisfaction. That's how it should be, dear. The past is just that. Past. What's important is the future we build together. I stood there, invisible to them, listening as they reduced 35 years of my life to a nightmare they preferred to forget. That night, I called Mr. Wallace. I want you to investigate all of the Davenport family's contracts. Mortgages, loans, debts, everything. For what purpose, Mrs. Vance? I want to know exactly how much money they owe, who they owe it to, and when their payments are due. A week later, I had the complete information. Victoria owed $300,000 on credit cards, The mortgage on her mansion was 3 months behind, and her company had a $500,000 loan due in 2 months. Not to mention the $50,000 a year she owed me for the land, which she hadn't paid in 6 months. There's more, Mr. Wallace told me with a smile. The building where she has her import company is also yours, Mrs. Vance. She's paying rent for a place you own. The irony was delicious. Victoria had been paying me for years without knowing it. Mr. Wallace, I want you to do something for me, I said. I want to buy all of her debts, all of them, every single one. Talk to the banks, the credit card companies, everyone who has lent her money. I want to own every penny she owes. Mr. Wallace looked at me with admiration. Mrs. Vance, that would make you Victoria Davenport's sole creditor. You would have absolute power over her financial situation. Exactly. Over the next few days, Mr. Wallace worked like a financial wizard. One by one, he bought all of Victoria's debts. The banks were happy to sell off problematic loans at a discount. In total, I spent $900,000 to acquire debts totaling $1,400,000. Now, Victoria owed all her money to me, though she didn't know it yet. While this was happening, I also investigated Michael, Ava's husband. He was a weak man, dominated by both his mother and his new wife. He worked at a consulting firm that paid well, but not extraordinarily so. His salary couldn't sustain the lifestyle Victoria had imposed on the family. One afternoon, while having coffee near his office, I saw him leave work. He looked stressed, wearing an expression of worry I hadn't noticed on the wedding day. I followed him to a bar where he met an older man. "I don't know what we're going to do, Dad," he said to his father. "Mom is spending money we don't have. The cards are maxed out, the house is having mortgage problems, and Ava doesn't understand that we're not as rich as we pretend to be." His father sighed. "Your mother has always lived beyond our means. But now with Ava in the family, she feels pressured to maintain a standard we can't sustain. The worst part is that Ava abandoned her real mother for this," Michael continued. "And now she's asking us to buy her a luxury car because all the wives at her level have one. She doesn't know we can barely pay the bills." Michael had a conscience. He knew what they had done was wrong, but he was too cowardly to confront the women in his family. That night, in my new apartment, I sat in front of the mirror. I was no longer the broken woman who had walked out of that wedding a month ago. My posture was different, my gaze firmer. I had regained something I thought I had lost forever, my dignity. I picked up my phone and dialed Mr. Wallace's number. "Mrs. Vance, how can I help you?" "It's time for Victoria to find out who her creditor really is," I said. "Schedule a meeting with her for tomorrow. Tell her that Helena Vance, her new primary creditor, wants to discuss the payment terms of her debts. Do you want me to reveal your identity?" "Not yet," I replied, feeling a cold smile form on my lips. "I want her to think Helena Vance is just another businesswoman. Let her beg first. Let her feel what it's like when someone more powerful controls your destiny." "Understood, Mrs. Vance." I hung up the phone and stared at the city out the window. Tomorrow, the real game would begin. Victoria Davenport was about to learn about real power, not the kind you buy with appearances, but the kind you build with patience and intelligence. And she had no idea what was coming for her. The meeting was scheduled for 3 o'clock in the afternoon at Mr. Wallace's office. I arrived an hour early and situated myself in the adjacent conference room, where I could hear everything through the thin wall but remain invisible. Mr. Wallace had installed a small microphone so I wouldn't miss a word. At exactly 3 o'clock, I heard Victoria's heels clicking on the marble hallway. Her voice came through, clear and arrogant. "I hope this doesn't take long. I have a spa appointment at 4. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Davenport," I heard Mr. Wallace's professional voice. "Please, have a seat. We have much to discuss." "Look, Mr. Wallace," Victoria began in that condescending tone I knew so well. "I don't know what kind of misunderstanding there is, but I don't owe any money to some Helena Vance. My financial affairs are perfectly in order." Mr. Wallace cleared his throat. "I'm afraid there's an error in your information, Mrs. Davenport. Mrs. Helena Vance has acquired all of your debts. Your mortgage with National Bank, your credit cards with Chase and American Express, your company's business loan with Santander, and, of course, the overdue rent on the land where your residence is built." There was a silence that lasted several seconds. When Victoria spoke again, her voice had lost all its previous arrogance. How is that possible? The banks can't sell my debts without notifying me. They can, Mrs. Davenport, when the loans are in significant default. According to our records, you owe a total of $1,400,000 to Mrs. Helena Vance. Your situation, Island. Delicate. This is ridiculous, I heard Victoria say as she stood up. Who is this Helena Vance? I've never heard that name in business circles. She is a very discreet businesswoman, Mrs. Davenport. She prefers to keep a low profile, but I assure you, she is completely legitimate. In fact, she is one of the most significant real estate owners in the city. I want to speak with her immediately. I'm afraid that won't be possible today. Mrs. Vance is currently evaluating her legal options. However, she has authorized me to offer you a payment plan. Victoria fell silent, waiting. You have 30 days to pay the full amount of the debt, or Mrs. Vance will proceed with the seizure of your properties and foreclosure on the mortgage. 30 days. That's impossible. Who has $1,400,000 available in a month? Those are the terms, Mrs. Davenport. Although Mrs. Vance did mention she might consider alternative terms if you are amenable to certain concessions. What kind of concessions? First, the immediate vacating of the property in Willow Creek Estates. Second, the transfer of your import company as part of the payment. And third, a public apology for certain social indiscretions. I couldn't help but smile. Mr. Wallace was following the plan perfectly. Social indiscretions? What are you talking about? Mrs. Vance is aware of situations where you have inappropriately interfered in the family relationships of others. She finds this morally reprehensible. Victoria was silent for a long moment. I could imagine her trying to process all the information. I need time to think, she finally said, her voice trembling. Of course. You have until noon tomorrow to give me an initial response. After that, Mrs. Vance will proceed with the corresponding legal actions. I heard Victoria's footsteps leaving the office, but this time they weren't the confident clicks of before. They sounded hurried, nervous. 10 minutes later, Mr. Wallace entered the room where I was waiting. How did I do, Mrs. Vance? Perfectly, I told him. Did you notice how her voice changed when she realized she had no control? Yes. She went from arrogance to panic in a matter of minutes. What do we do now? Now, we wait. And in the meantime, we prepare for phase 2. That evening, I set in motion the most delicate part of my plan. I had hired a private investigator to monitor Victoria's and Ava's phone conversations. It wasn't entirely legal, but Mr. Wallace had contacts who could handle these things discreetly. At 8 o'clock that night, I received the transcript of the call Victoria made to Ava as soon as she got home. Ava, we need to talk. Urgently. What's wrong, Mother? You sound upset. We are in serious financial trouble. There's a woman named Helena Vance who has bought all of our debts. She wants the full amount in 30 days, or she's taking everything. Helena Vance? I've never heard that name. How much money? $1,400,000. There was a long silence. Ava, are you there? Yes, I'm here. It's just... Mother, where are we going to get that much money? I don't know. Your husband makes good money, but not that much. And my businesses have been slow. What's going to happen to the house, to our lifestyle? I don't know, dear. Maybe. Maybe we'll need to make some adjustments. No, I can't go backward now. I've already told all my friends about my new life. I can't suddenly show up living like before. Like when you lived with me, I thought bitterly. Calm down, Ava. We'll find a solution. What if we ask Michael's father? He has money. Number I already tried. He's worried about his own finances. He says he can't help us with such a large sum. Then what are we going to do? I'm going to talk to this Helena Vance. See if I can negotiate something. In the meantime, you need to talk to Michael. See if he knows anyone who can lend us the money. Okay, but Mother, promise me we're not going to lose everything. I can't go back to that life. That life. The life with me. The life where she was loved unconditionally, but had no mansions or luxury cars. The call ended there, but it was enough. Victoria was desperate, and Ava was more concerned with maintaining her new image than with solving the real problems. The next day, at 11 o'clock in the morning, Victoria called Mr. Wallace's office. "Mr. Wallace, I've been thinking about Mrs. Vance's proposal. I need more time, and I would also like to meet her personally. Mrs. Vance has agreed to a meeting, but on her terms. It will be tomorrow at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, in her private office." "Where is that?" "In the Emerald Tower building, 23rd floor. The Presidential Suite office. The Emerald Tower, 23rd floor. My luxury apartment that I had inherited from Robert." Victoria didn't know she would be walking into my home. "Fine. I'll be there. Mrs. Davenport, there is one more condition." "What is it?" "Mrs. Vance insists that you come alone. No lawyers, no family, no witnesses." Victoria agreed, though her voice betrayed her nervousness. That night, I prepared everything carefully. I hired a cleaning service to leave the apartment spotless. I ordered an elegant conference table to be installed in the main living room. I bought an expensive business suit, had my hair styled at an exclusive salon, and for the first time in decades, I put on professional makeup. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me. I was no longer Beatrice, the cleaning lady abandoned by her daughter. I was Helena Vance, a powerful entrepreneur who controlled the destinies of her enemies. Tomorrow, Victoria would meet Helena Vance. But she still wouldn't know that Helena Vance and Beatrice Miller were the same person. Not yet. At exactly 5 o'clock in the afternoon, my apartment doorbell rang. From the security camera, I could see Victoria in the hallway, visibly nervous, checking her appearance in the elevator mirror. She was wearing her best light pink suit and her most expensive jewelry, but for the first time since I'd known her, she didn't radiate that arrogant confidence that had bothered me so much. I waited exactly 2 minutes before opening the door. I wanted her to feel the discomfort of waiting. "Mrs. Davenport," I said in a cold, professional voice when I finally opened the door. "I am Helena Vance." Victoria looked me up and down, clearly trying to size me up. I had changed my appearance so much that it was impossible for her to recognize me. My hair was styled completely differently. I was wearing designer glasses, professional makeup, and a business suit that cost more than I used to make in 3 months as a cleaner. "A pleasure, Mrs. Vance," she replied with a forced smile. "Thank you for seeing me. Please, come in." I led her to the main living area, where I had set everything up like a true executive boardroom. Victoria looked around, obviously impressed. The apartment was elegant but not ostentatious, exactly the image I wanted to project. "Please, have a seat," I said, gesturing to a chair opposite the table. I sat on the other side, maintaining distance and power. "Mrs. Vance," Victoria began carefully, "I believe there has been a misunderstanding about my financial situation." "There are no misunderstandings," I interrupted firmly. "Your debts are perfectly documented, $1,400,000 in total. Well, these last few months have been difficult. My company is undergoing a temporary restructuring. Your company is bankrupt, Mrs. Davenport. It has been in the red for 2 consecutive years." Victoria turned pale. "You've done a lot of research on me." "I research everyone who owes me a significant amount of money. It's a sensible business practice." "Look, Mrs. Vance." Victoria changed her strategy, leaning forward with that manipulative smile I knew so well. "I am a society woman in this city. I have important connections. I am sure we can come to an arrangement that benefits us both." "What kind of arrangement do you propose?" "Well, I can pay you a portion now, and the rest in monthly installments. I can also introduce you into the right social circles. A businesswoman like you could benefit from the proper connections." I couldn't help a cold smile. "You are offering me social connections as a form of payment. It's a legitimate proposal. At our social level, relationships are as valuable as money." "Our social level?" I repeated slowly. "Tell me, Mrs. Davenport, what do you know about my social level?" Victoria shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Well, it's obvious you are a successful, educated, refined woman. Unlike whom?" "I'm sorry, I don't understand the question." "I am wondering if you believe all women deserve respect, regardless of their background or economic situation." Victoria frowned, clearly confused by the turn in conversation. Of course I do. I respect all people. All people? Even working mothers who raise their children alone? Of course. Even women who work as cleaners to pay for their children's education? Victoria was starting to look uncomfortable. Mrs. Vance, I don't understand where you are going with these questions. I am trying to understand your character, Mrs. Davenport. Because you see, I have information about certain situations where you have shown a remarkable lack of respect for women in vulnerable situations. I don't know what you're talking about. You don't? I understand that you recently convinced a young woman to abandon her biological mother so you could legally adopt her. Victoria stiffened. That is a private family matter. Private? A public humiliation at a wedding is hardly private. How do you know about? Victoria stopped, her eyes widening in alarm. I know many things, Mrs. Davenport. For example, I know you told that young woman that her biological mother was an embarrassment to her new social standing. The situation was complicated. Ava needed guidance to adapt to her new lifestyle. Guidance? Did that include teaching her to despise the woman who sacrificed everything for her? Victoria stood up from her chair. Mrs. Vance, I don't understand why you are so interested in my family affairs, but this is not relevant to my financial situation. Sit down, I said in a voice of steel. We are not finished. Victoria hesitated for a moment, but finally sat back down. I could see the fear growing in her eyes. The relevance, Mrs. Davenport, is that I do not do business with people who lack moral integrity. I have moral integrity. Do you? Tell me, how did you feel when you saw that mother walk out of the church alone after her daughter publicly rejected her? Victoria remained silent. Did it give you satisfaction to see a 71-year-old woman humiliated in that way? That was not my intention. Not your intention? You planned all of it carefully. You convinced Ava to legally change her last name, to transfer all her savings and life insurance, to treat her mother like a stranger. How do you know all these details? Victoria was clearly frightened now. Because that woman, I said, rising slowly from my chair, was me. Victoria froze completely. Her eyes widened like saucers, her mouth fell open, and all the color drained from her face. That's not possible. I am Beatrice Miller, Victoria, Ava's mother, the woman whose daughter you stole, the woman you humiliated in public, the cleaner you considered so far beneath you. Victoria scrambled to her feet, knocking her chair over backward. This is impossible. You're Helena Vance, a successful businesswoman. I am both, I said calmly. Helena Vance is my legal business identity, the name my late husband created to protect our properties. Beatrice Miller is the one who single-handedly raised the daughter you took from me. It can't be. For 15 years, I lived in poverty without knowing I was a millionaire. I worked as a cleaner while owning multi-million-dollar properties. But now I know everything, Victoria. And now, I have the power. Victoria began to back away, as if wanting to flee. You're insane. This island. This is a conspiracy. A conspiracy? No, Victoria. This is justice. Ava will never believe you. She's happy with her new life. Happy? I took a step toward her. Do you know what I heard on a phone call between you two yesterday? She was terrified of going back to that life. The life with me. As if being loved unconditionally was something to be ashamed of. You can't prove anything. Can't I? I picked up a binder from the table. Here are all the deeds to the properties where you live. All the lease agreements you have been violating. All the documents proving that Helena Vance and Beatrice Miller are the same person. Victoria stared at the binder as if it were a venomous snake. You thought you had won, I continued in a calm voice. You thought you had destroyed a poor, helpless woman. But what you really did was awaken a powerful woman who had been dormant for 15 years. What? What do you want from me? I want you to feel exactly what I felt. I want you to experience loss, humiliation, abandonment. Victoria began to cry. Please, don't do this. I can give Ava back. Give her back? I looked at her with contempt. Ava is not a piece of property to be returned. She is my daughter, and she will have to decide for herself who she really island. What are you going to do to us? I smiled, but it was not a kind smile. Tomorrow, Victoria Davenport, you are going to learn what it means to lose everything. Victoria left my apartment completely shattered. From the window, I watched her walk to her car as if she were a frail old woman, not the arrogant socialite who had entered an hour before. Her hands were shaking so much that it took her several tries to open the car door. I didn't sleep that night. Not from nervousness, but from anticipation. For weeks, I had been the victim, the abandoned woman, the rejected mother. Now it was their turn to feel the world crumble beneath their feet. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I called Mr. Wallace. It's time to execute phase 2. What are your instructions, Mrs. Vance? I want you to immediately begin the eviction process for the land in Willow Creek Estates. Send the legal notices this morning. They have 72 hours to vacate the property and the building where her company is located. I also want the entire Davenport family to understand that they have nowhere left to hide. Anything else? Yes. Contact all the luxury service providers they use, the country club, the spa, the boutiques where they have credit. I want them to know that Helena Vance no longer authorizes any charges in the name of Victoria Davenport. Understood. And if they try to contact you, they will not find Helena Vance anywhere. Officially, Helena Vance has become invisible. 2 hours later, the chaos began. My private investigator kept me informed of everything that was happening through the phone taps. The first call was from Victoria to Ava at 10:30 in the morning. Ava, I need you to come home immediately. We have an emergency. What kind of emergency? I'm at the salon. Get out of the salon now. We have to be out of the house in 72 hours. What? What are you talking about? Helena Vance, She Island. Oh my God, Ava. She is your biological mother. There was a silence so long I thought the line had disconnected. That's impossible. It's not impossible. I met with her yesterday. Helena Vance is Beatrice Miller. Your real mother owns everything. Our house, my company, our debts, everything. It can't be. My mother was a poor cleaner. A multimillionaire cleaner. She's been playing with us this whole time. Are you sure? Completely. She showed me all the documents. We are tenants on her property, Ava. We have always been tenants on her property. This time the silence was even longer. Ava, are you there? Yes. Yes. I'm here. It's just. Mother, if this is true. What? If this is true, then I did something terrible, something unforgivable. Don't say that. You did what was right for your future. What was right? I abandoned my mother at her own daughter's wedding. I publicly humiliated her. I took all her savings. That was your decision, not mine. It was your idea. You convinced me she was an embarrassment to me. I was only guiding you to a better life. A better life? A life built on lies and humiliation. Do you know what this means, Victoria? It means my real mother had money the whole time. It means I never needed to abandon her to have a comfortable life. It means I hurt her for nothing. Victoria didn't know how to respond to that. I'm on my way now, Ava continued, her voice breaking. We need to talk about this. An hour later, another call came in, this time from Michael to his father. Dad, I need to tell you something incredible. Remember Ava's mother, the one we abandoned at the wedding? Yes, that whole business that always seemed cruel to me. It turns out she's a millionaire. She owns the land we live on, the building where Mom has her company, and all of our debts. What are you saying? That we have been living on the property of the woman we publicly humiliated. And now she's kicking us out. Michael, that can't be true. It is, Dad. Mom just confessed everything. She said she met with her yesterday and that Helena Vance is actually Beatrice Miller. My God, what are you going to do now? I don't know. Ava is completely devastated. She says she needs to find her real mother and ask for forgiveness. Maybe that's the right thing to do. Yeah, I think so. But Mom is furious. She says Ava is being emotionally manipulated. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Helena Vance. It was Ava's voice, but it sounded completely different. Broken, vulnerable, like the little girl I remembered. Who is this? It's Ava. Ava Miller. She had gone back to using my last name. Could we talk? About what? About everything. About what I did. About who you really are. About... about whether there is any way to fix this. Where is Victoria? I don't know. She left after our argument. I think she went to talk to lawyers to see if she can stop the eviction. And what do you want, Ava? There was a long pause. I want to see my real mother. I want to ask her for forgiveness for the most terrible thing I have ever done in my life. Your real mother is dead, I said coldly. She died the day you abandoned her in that church. Please, don't say that. Why not? It's the truth. The woman who raised you, who sacrificed everything for you, who loved you unconditionally, that woman no longer exists. Helena Vance is someone different. Please, her voice broke completely. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I need to try to fix it. How do you plan to fix 35 years of love that you destroyed in 5 minutes? I don't know, she cried. I don't know, but I have to try. I listened to her cry for several minutes. A part of me, the part that was still Beatrice, wanted to comfort her. But Helena Vance was stronger. Tonight, I said finally, at 8 o'clock, in the park where we used to go when you were little, the one by the lake. You'll be there? Someone will be there, I replied. Whether that person is your mother or Helena Vance will depend on what you have to say. I hung up the phone and stared out the window. The game was reaching its climax. Victoria had lost all her power. Ava had woken up to reality, and I had to decide if I wanted complete revenge or if there was anything left of the mother I had once been. That afternoon, as I was preparing for the meeting, I received one last call from my investigator. Mrs. Vance Victoria Davenport just arrived at National Bank. She is trying to get an emergency loan using properties that no longer belong to her as collateral. Did they give her the loan? Number. When they verified the ownership of the assets, they discovered everything is in the name of Helena Vance. They threw her out of the bank. Where is she now? In her car, in the bank's parking lot. She has been crying for 20 minutes. For the first time in weeks, I felt no satisfaction hearing about Victoria's suffering. I felt empty, as if revenge wasn't as sweet as I had imagined. It was time to face my daughter. I arrived at the park half an hour before our meeting. It was the same place I used to take Ava as a child, where I taught her to ride a bike, where we celebrated her birthdays when we didn't have money for big parties. The memories hit me like waves. Her laughter as I pushed her on the swings, her tears when she scraped her knees, her spontaneous hugs when she told me I was the best mom in the world. I sat on the same bench where we used to feed the ducks. The lake reflected the city lights, creating an atmosphere that would have been romantic if it weren't so heavy with pain. At exactly 8 o'clock, I saw a figure walking slowly down the path. It was Ava, but she looked completely different from how I had seen her in recent months. She wasn't wearing her elegant clothes or expensive jewelry. She wore simple jeans and a white blouse, just like she used to when she lived with me. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, without the sophisticated style Victoria had imposed on her. She approached the bench slowly, as if afraid I might disappear. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. "Mom?" she said in a small voice, using the word she had so cruelly rejected weeks ago. I didn't answer immediately. I looked at her for a long moment, studying her face. I could see the girl she had been, but also the woman who had chosen to hurt me. "Sit down," I said finally. She sat at the opposite end of the bench, keeping her distance. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. We just listened to the sound of the water and the distant traffic. "I don't know where to start," she finally murmured. "Start by explaining to me how it's possible that my own daughter could look me in the eyes and tell me she didn't need me anymore." Ava began to cry silently. I didn't want to hurt you." Victoria had been filling my head with ideas for months. What kind of ideas? She told me that to truly belong in high society, I needed to detach from my humble past. That the wives of successful men couldn't have mothers who worked as cleaners. "And you believed her?" "Yes," she whispered. "I believed her because I wanted to believe her, because I was dazzled by everything she was offering me." "What was she offering you that I hadn't already given you?" "Status, money, social respect." She paused. "Superficial things that I now realize mean nothing compared to what I lost." "And what did you lose, Ava?" "You. I lost the only person in the world who loved me unconditionally. I lost the woman who worked 3 jobs to pay for my college. I lost my real mother. The tears were flowing freely down her face now. Victoria never really loved me. She saw me as a project, a doll she could mold for her own satisfaction. But you loved me for who I was, not for who I could become. And why did it take you so long to realize that? Because I was blind. Because I was so obsessed with fitting into a world I thought was better than my life with you. She looked me directly in the eyes. Do you know what Victoria told me today when she found out you were Helena Vance? Tell me. She said I should be happy because now I had access to a truly rich mother. She didn't understand why I was crying. To her, you were only valuable now that we knew you had money. I felt a pang of pain mixed with rage. And what did you say to her? I told her she never understood anything, that a mother's worth isn't measured in dollars, but in years of sacrifice, of unconditional love, of being there when you need her most. Her voice broke. I told her I had lost the best woman in the world by following her advice. We fell silent again. I was struggling with conflicting emotions. The part of me that was still Beatrice wanted to hug her, forgive her, tell her everything would be all right. But Helena Vance was more cautious, more hurt. Do you know how much money I lost because of you two? I asked. The $30,000 I had saved in our joint account. It was transferred to Victoria when you changed your last name. I had to live in a motel because I couldn't pay the mortgage without that money. Ava covered her mouth in horror. Number, I didn't know that happened. You didn't know? You signed the papers, Ava. You authorized the transfer of all my savings. Victoria told me they were legal formalities, that they wouldn't affect your financial situation. Lie after lie, I muttered. Do you see how she manipulated you? Yes, now I see it. But you know what the worst part is? What? That I wanted to be manipulated. Because it was easier to believe that you weren't good enough for me than to face the reality that I was an ungrateful daughter. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. It was the first time she had taken full responsibility for her actions, not just blaming Victoria. When I was a girl, she continued, I always felt different from the other girls at my school. They had fathers with office jobs, big houses, expensive vacations, and I had a single mother who cleaned toilets to pay for my school. You were ashamed of me. Sometimes, she admitted, and even though I knew it was the truth, hearing it hurt. Not all the time, but sometimes. And I hated myself for feeling that way, because I knew you were incredible. I knew other mothers wouldn't have done half of what you did for me. But when Victoria showed up, she offered me the chance to have the mother I always wanted. Exactly. And I was selfish and cowardly enough to take it. I stood up from the bench and walked toward the lake. I needed to process what I was hearing. Ava followed me, but kept her distance. Do you know what's most painful about all of this? I asked without turning to look at her. What? That if you had told me all this before, if you had explained how you felt, we could have worked together to make our lives better. I had money, Ava. I always had it. We could have lived comfortably. We could have traveled. We could have had everything you wanted without you abandoning me. I didn't know you had money, but you knew I loved you. And you knew you loved me. Wasn't that enough to at least talk to me before making such a drastic decision? You were right, she cried. You were completely right. I was a coward. I was selfish. I was cruel. I turned to face her. And what do you want now, Ava? What do you expect from this conversation? I don't expect anything, she replied. I don't expect your forgiveness, because I know I don't deserve it. I don't expect things to go back to the way they were, because I know that's impossible. I just wanted you to know that I realize the magnitude of what I did, and that I would give anything to be able to undo it. Anything. Anything? Would you leave, Michael? Would you give up your new life? Would you come back to live with me in a humble apartment as if nothing had happened? She hesitated for only a second. Yes. Even if it meant publicly admitting you were wrong? Even if your new high society friends turned their backs on you? Yes, she answered more firmly. I would rather be poor and despised with you than rich and respected without you. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like hope growing in my chest. But Helena Vance was not ready to give up so easily. I'll have to think about it, I told her. This conversation doesn't erase what happened. I know. I'm just asking for a chance to prove to you that I can be the daughter you always deserved. There will be a meeting at Victoria's house tomorrow, I told her. The lawyers are coming to execute the eviction. If you really want to prove something to me, show me whose side you're on when the time comes. The morning of the eviction, I arrived at the mansion in Willow Creek Estates at 9 o'clock sharp. Mr. Wallace accompanied me with a folder full of legal documents and 2 court officers. I had decided to be present as Helena Vance, not Beatrice. I wanted Victoria to see exactly who held the power now. The mansion looked different in the morning light. It was no longer the symbol of unattainable luxury that had intimidated me months before. It was simply a house built on my land, occupied by people who owed me $1,400,000. Victoria opened the door before we could ring the bell. She looked terrible, deep dark circles under her eyes, disheveled hair, the same wrinkled clothes from yesterday. She had aged 10 years in 2 days. "Good morning, Mrs. Davenport," I said in a professional voice. "We are here to execute the legal eviction from this property." "This is unfair," she said in a hoarse voice. "You're using your money for revenge. I am using my money to reclaim what is legally mine. You have violated the terms of the lease agreement by not paying rent for 6 months. Because I didn't know you were the owner. Ignorance does not nullify contractual obligations, Mrs. Davenport." We entered the house. Victoria had packed a few suitcases, but it was obvious she wasn't finished. Most of the furniture and decorations were still in place. "Where is Ava?" I asked. "I don't know. She left last night after our fight and hasn't come back." "What fight?" Victoria looked at me with resentment. "She says she wants to go back to you, that this life isn't worth it if it means losing her real mother." I told her she was being emotionally manipulated, but she wouldn't listen. Emotionally manipulated? The way you manipulated her? I gave her opportunities you never could have. With what money, Victoria? Your company is bankrupt, your credit cards are maxed out, your mortgage is in default. Everything you gave Ava was built on debts you couldn't pay. That's temporary. Businesses have their ups and downs. No, Victoria. Businesses require planning, honesty, and hard work. Things you apparently don't understand. One of the court officers approached. "Mrs. Vance, would you like us to proceed with the inventory of seizable assets?" "Yes, proceed." Victoria collapsed onto an expensive sofa that would soon no longer be hers. "What do you want from me? You want to see me on the street, with nothing." I sat across from her, maintaining my businesslike composure. "I want you to understand what it feels like to lose everything you think is important. I get it. I've lost my house, my company, my social status. You haven't lost the most important thing." "What?" "You haven't lost your son. Michael is still your son. He still loves you, despite everything. I lost my daughter because of your manipulations. Ava can go back to you whenever she wants. Can she? The damage is already done, Victoria. You taught her to despise me, to be ashamed of me, to see me as an obstacle to her happiness. Those lessons are not easily unlearned." Victoria was silent for a moment. "What do I have to do to make this stop?" "Nothing. This isn't about what you do now. It's about what you already did." At that moment, we heard a car pull into the driveway. Through the window, I saw Ava getting out of a cab. She was carrying a small suitcase and looked determined. She walked through the front door without ringing the bell. Seeing me sitting in the living room, she walked directly toward me. "Mrs. Helena Vance," she said formally, and then turned to Victoria. "Victoria, I've come to get my things. I'm leaving this house." "What are you doing?" Victoria stood up, alarmed. "What I should have done months ago, choosing my real family. She's manipulating you. She's using her money to control you." Ava looked at her with a calm I hadn't seen before. "My mother never needed to use her money to control me, Victoria. For 35 years, she controlled me with something much more powerful: unconditional love. You are making a mistake. The mistake was made 6 months ago when I decided to be ashamed of the woman who gave me life." Ava turned to me. "Mrs. Vance, I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but if there is any chance of getting my mother back, I am willing to do whatever it takes, including giving up my marriage. My marriage is based on lies and manipulation. Michael is a good man, but he can't separate himself from his mother, and I can't keep living in an environment where my past is considered a source of shame." Victoria approached Ava. "You are going to throw your life away for a woman who is emotionally blackmailing you. The only one who emotionally blackmailed me was you, Ava replied firmly. You convinced me that my mother's love wasn't enough because it didn't come with social status. You taught me to value appearances more than genuine feelings. I gave you opportunities. You gave me a gilded cage. You turned me into someone I wasn't, someone who could abandon her own mother for money. Ava knelt in front of me. Mom, I know I'm not Ava Miller anymore. I know I'm legally Ava Davenport. But if you'll let me, I want to be your daughter again. I want my real last name back. I want my real life back. I looked at her for a long moment. Helena Vance wanted to keep punishing her, to keep making her suffer for the pain she had caused me. But Beatrice, the mother I had been for 35 years, was tired of all the pain. Get up, I said softly. She stood, tears streaming down her face. If you really want to be my daughter again, there are conditions. Whatever they are. First, no easy money. You are going to work. You are going to earn what you have, and you are going to value every penny just like I did for years. Yes. Second, no more being ashamed of who you are or where you come from. You are going to honor our history, our struggles, our sacrifices. Yes. Third, you are going to help me with something important. What? We are going to create a foundation for single mothers who need support to educate their children. We are going to use my money for something that really matters. I would love to do that with you. For the first time in weeks, I felt that Helena Vance and Beatrice Miller could coexist in peace. One was power and justice, the other was love and compassion. Victoria, I addressed her one last time. You can stay in this house for one more week to find another place. After that, the property will be renovated for the foundation. 1 week? That's all. It's more than you gave me. I had to leave my own life immediately. Victoria collapsed back onto the sofa, finally understanding that she had lost completely. Ava and I walked out of that mansion together. Outside, under the morning sun, she took off the expensive earrings she was wearing and pulled her hair out of its sophisticated ponytail. Do you know the first thing I want to do? She asked me. What? Go to our favorite diner, the cheap one on the corner where we used to have breakfast on Sundays. I want to sit with you at that table by the window and listen to you tell me about your life as Helena Vance. I want to get to know my multimillionaire mother, but I also want to get back my mom who made pancakes on Saturday mornings. For the first time in months, I smiled a genuine smile. That sounds perfect, but you're paying for the coffee. With your own money, from the job you're going to get tomorrow. Deal, she laughed, and for a moment she was my 8-year-old girl again, hugging me after her school play. 6 months later, the Beatrice Miller Foundation was helping over 200 single mothers educate their children. Ava worked there as a coordinator, earning a modest but honest salary. Victoria had disappeared from our lives and, according to the latest news, was living in a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. Justice doesn't always mean revenge. Sometimes it means reclaiming what truly matters. Love, true family, and the peace of knowing that your worth isn't measured in money, but in the lives you touch with your heart. I forgive you, my daughter, but most of all, I forgive myself.